Hello, and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at High Volt Leadership. My guest on this week's episode is Jessie Schewchuk. Jessie's the founder of Modern Muse Media, and she's got such a compelling story of triumph over adversity. She found herself left with nothing after her marriage ended, and it was after an ugly cry on her kitchen floor and with the powerful encouragement of a trusted mentor that Jessie found her footing and began to move forward again. It's her incredible drive and the ability to just simply put one foot in front of the other that makes her such a remarkable female founder. And her diamond in the rough literally came from a rough place in her life. And what she's created now is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to share her story with you today. Awesome. Hey, I've got a special guest here on the podcast today. I've got Jessie Schewchuk with me. Jessie, it's been a long time coming. I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for being a guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I am excited too. And I know you have a really cool story, a really cool journey to being a female founder. And I'd love for us to hear from you about that today.
Well, I love to say Modern Muse Media was forged from an ugly cry on my kitchen floor because that's exactly what happened.
I love it.
I was in a place where I really truly felt like I had lost absolutely everything. Now in hindsight, I see that I had gained so much, but there was 7 years in between there of life. And so I had gone separate ways from my partner, who was the executive producer of a TV series, who really kind of owned a lot of my life, my car and my career, my phone, my computer. And when things went down, I lost everything, air quotes. And it was just a good thing I had already moved out and was in my home. So at that time, I had called the soon-to-be president of Women in Film and Television of Alberta, Susan Fatima Leonard. And she's a guardian angel of mine. And I had said, I'm not in the industry anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to feed my kid. And I'm leaving WIFTA because I'm not even a part of this, and I'm a big failure, and so on and so forth. And, she figuratively reached through the phone that day and pulled me up off the kitchen floor. And she said, no, you're actually going to start your own production company. We're going to be your first client. You're going to teach us how to get TV shows up and going. And I'd really love for you to be my vice president of Women in Film and Television. And, I was in a place of, I don't know what else to do. So it was just like, okay. And it was literally just day by day. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just had to figure out how. I had to figure out how to literally feed my child.
Wow.
And that's how Modern Muse Media was born.
Again, I knew you had an incredible story. I didn't even realize all of that. That's remarkable.
Yeah, so here we are almost 7 years in, creating something from nothing, as I like to say, my diamond in the rough, because I was in a pretty rough place.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot over the years. That was just the beginning.
We'll get to that. But there's a couple things that you said that I wanted to just reiterate. First of all, it just takes one person. Just takes one person to believe in you, to really see and hear and understand and care and recognize ability and brilliance. Just takes one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it was very difficult for me to ask for help, and
Oh,
continued to be over the years, because as women, we wear these capes,
oh,
and it's really, really tough to undo that
yes.
at times, and take it off and go, I really needed help in that moment. And I had no idea what I was going to do.
No doubt.
I was really starting over after having this hugely, wildly successful career as a TV producer in film and television, and never running a business. So I was starting something brand new, without really having any training
Yeah,
to
I
go.
love it. I love it. But so first of all, yes, take off the coat suit, the cape, superwoman. Like, right? For
Yeah.
anybody who's listening, knock it off. Superheroes don't exist. Um, and you don't need to be a superhero to be amazing. You just need to be you. So that, like, number one on the themes of this show. But I think, what stands out is that clearly you had incredible skill and experience. It was just a matter of how you were going to use it differently.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. And somebody seeing that in
Yeah.
you when you're not in a place to be able to do so.
No,
Right. And
no.
so, what is the expression? The cracks are there to let the light through. And
Yes.
somebody could see the light through what was a very, very serious cracking,
Oh,
a complete breaking point for me, really. So,
any of us who have been through one of those, they're always different. The experience is individual, but we can certainly empathize and understand. And I've absolutely been there. I mean, I was a single mom for 12 years, so I know the panic, the deep sense of panic that comes from how am I gonna put food on my table? How am I gonna keep my kid in a home and in school and in clothes, and like that is real. That is like mama bear territory. Like, do not mess with me. The desperation of that.
desperation.
Yeah.
And so, what's interesting is that a lot of the lessons that I've had to learn, that I've had the opportunity to learn over the last few years, is trying to let go of some of that desperation and some of that fear
Yes.
that is very much attached to being a single parent.
Yeah. It's true though, isn't it? I feel the same way. Like, really, when you live in that space of having to rob Peter to pay Paul, as my mother would say,
Mhm.
you do
Oh
get
yeah.
a bit of a mindset, and it does take some work to shake that there is abundance, there's risks to be taken, there's right, because you become a little bit locked in on some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting. That is so interesting. Well, I love that 7 years later you have just transformed into the most incredible space and the most incredible business. What a journey.
Well, thank you. It's so funny. Even when you say those words, it's hard to hear and accept some of that, because there's just like almost 7 years. We're still at 6 3/4. And is it the most incredible because we're going through a complete like revamp and fill? But it's just that voice that's there. And then the other one's like, yes, yes, it is almost 7. And it is incredible. It's just like this constant dialogue that is at play within our minds, I find, and trying to calibrate that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, my client last week called it the monologue, right? Like, it's it's the ongoing conversation in your own head that is the hardest to actually work through, rationalize, organize, and or ignore.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Jessie's done my leadership style quiz, and we're going to talk about her leadership style in a minute. And you can compare if you haven't taken the quiz yet. There's a link in the show notes, or you can go to highvoltageleadership.ca.
There's a button on the top of the page that says take the quiz. It'll take you just a couple minutes. You'll find out what your style is compared to Jesse's. I also give you some of my top tips to really help you improve your leadership right now, things you can use today. But Jesse, tell us, what is your leadership style and what does that mean for you?
What is my leadership style? Oh, that is such an interesting question. I'm definitely not a micromanager. My team has a lot of autonomy and flexibility, and that's something that they share back with me that they really, really appreciate. I've really developed knowledge as an awareness as to what I'm strong at, and I'm in the process of filling the gaps of which I'm not, and really allowing those folks to run with what they are strong at. Right. And so I have Melissa, who is our director of training, and she is so good at educating and nurturing and curriculum development and Lauren, who's our director of communications, who's coming to the table with all of these new ideas and the sales funnel, the newsletters, just in ways that I wouldn't even think. And then, of course, handling our social media content creation. So I just really lean into autonomy with my team and trial and error. So, they'll come to me with something and say, well, what if we try this? And I say, okay, let's try it. Because I think a lot of the times, especially in new age media and digital media, which we live in, it is constantly changing, right? So whereas Instagram Reels were the hottest thing last week, this week it's YouTube Shorts. And so now we're familiarizing with that. And so it is it's ever changing. And I don't know if there's a right, there is a right zone.
Yeah.
And I
love
think
it. I love it. I sort of hear, I hear delegating, that you're confident and comfortable giving people the work to do and letting them do it. And I also hear supporting in there that when they have that idea or they encounter that roadblock, you are the person that helps with that encourages that removes that roadblock, that maybe challenges, like, why should we do that? Tell me more about that. Like, I love that combination, actually. Jesse, that sounds really powerful.
Yeah. And something else that I think we highly encourage, and this just came up last week, is that they actually come with a solution or two, with a potential solution. So that support there is for them to find their own way out of whatever those roadblocks are and present those solutions rather than me or my COO telling them what that is. And I think that's that next level, right? Where it's, they can come with a problem, but anybody can come with a problem. 99.999% of us come with problems, okay, 100% of us. But it's coming with 3 potential solutions to this. Well, we can try this, we can try this, we can try this. And that's where it's like, okay, let's try it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you create the space for that, because the truth is, that's a really, we hear the phrase psychological safety, but it's basically just creating a relationship and a working environment that's based on trust and mutual respect. And that's clearly what you've done, because otherwise they wouldn't even feel like they could take the risk of, hey, I've got an idea or I've got a problem and here's 3 things we could do about it, or here's 3 things we could try. Like, that is inherently risky. There's a little vulnerability in even bringing that to your boss.
Yeah. I mean, they're the experts in what they're doing. And oftentimes, even with the technology, it's my younger team that I go and talk to, Hunter, who will ask, how do I transfer this? Or how do I use this new app? Right. I mean, they're amazing and incredible. And we're raised on this technology that I wasn't. So that's the truth. Just lean into the truth,
Yeah. They're digital natives.
Yeah.
They've never experienced life without this, first of all, the technology, but second of all, the pace of the change in the tech. And so they really, you're right. I have teenagers and 20-year-olds, and they're far more equipped to deal with this. Their brains work that way, right? Like, it's intuitive for them. But I really appreciate, and I think this is an old saying, and I can't attribute it to anybody, if anybody knows who said this, but like, if you're like, you as a leader, you shouldn't be the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Simon Sinek or somebody else. Anyways,
Yeah.
and you have to be confident and comfortable that you're not the smartest person in the room all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not always easy.
It wasn't, especially so again, part of that journey, and I saw turnover and I saw trouble with some relationships with team members, is that I came in with something so huge to prove because I got knocked down so hard.
Right.
And so there was a lot of ego that was at play. And because there was a lot of ego and desperation that was at play, I was very scared of competition. I was really scared of collaboration, because that would mean taking food off my table. Like, if you get down to the bare bones of it, and with the team, right? I don't know that I've always been as open to this as I am now. And that's come with experience. That's come with a confidence that I didn't have, that everything's going to be okay. And that even if this all goes bunk, I'm not going to not have a place to stay. I have my sister, I have my family.
Yeah.
There will be food. There will be. So I had to I had to work with coaches. I had to get out of that mindset that I was going to lose everything, which is where I started.
Yeah.
When in reality, I still had so much. I've never lost everything really. Sorry. I've never lost everything. I lost a lot of things throughout my life, including my mom at a very young age. I've seen a lot of tragedy, but I've always had so much to be thankful for and so much abundance. And that talk, it makes it sound so easy. Like, there's a toxic positivity that's out there, and it's just like, just think positive. And it's like,
no bad days. Yeah. Good vibes only. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? Kill me now.
Rewiring your brain is hard and requires a lot of ugly crying and a lot of frustration, a lot of shame and judgment on yourself, that, oh, why am I still thinking this way when I know better? You do better, Maya Angelou. And that whole monologue, when you start to dig into it, becomes even more massive, because you're trying to shift the thinking, you're trying to calibrate, you're trying to change the synapses and how they're actually firing. That is not easy work. And so I had felt threatened by some team members at times. There's relationships that dissolved because of my fear and desperation and scarcity mindset that existed. That still creeps in here and there, but I got to tell you, I'm doing so much better. And there's a lot to be thankful for, the growth that has occurred there. But that's real. Like, that's the real life story. Oh,
thank you so much. I mean, that was really vulnerable and brave for you to share that. Thank you very much. Like, I really appreciate that you would offer that very personal those very personal pieces of information, because it is for us as business owners. We are the business. The business it's our business, and it is how we show up and the presence and the mindset that we bring to it that can make or break pieces of it, all of it, relationships inside of it. And I appreciate you saying, like, there were moments in time where it was me that was not showing up the right way. And that's sometimes hard for us to admit as business owners and as leaders, right?
No, it was most definitely me. And there's much to be accountable for and to take responsibility for. And I think that's a part of the awareness and the work as well, right? There's got to come a point where I forgive myself for that. And I 100%. Think I'm there.
Yeah.
And some days I'm not, but for the most part I am. But, I have not always been this version of myself I am today. And I will not always be this version of myself in the future. Right. But looking back, I'm glad that I know better, because I think I do better with my team now than I did in the past. And it wasn't always just, and it wasn't always fair. And it was also coming from fear, just so much fear.
Yeah.
And I had a big fall. So I knew what that face plant felt like. I knew what the concussion was all about. So the stakes were even higher in that I had so much to prove. And, you would do anything to not feel that again, that fall from grace, right?
Yes.
So I had to come to peace in terms with the fact that my company may not, go 10 years, 15 years. I believe it will. I set goals, I vision for it.
Yeah.
And the attachment to that is, if it doesn't, then there'll be something more, or there'll be something different, or there'll be something better. And whatever happens, I just need to trust.
Yeah.
That word.
Yeah, I know. And it's not, I mean, we say trust like, oh yeah, it's no big deal, but it's hard. I love your point there about what I think is really important is that as much as these businesses are a part of us, we're not defined by them, right? Success in my business does not mean I am successful as a human, and vice versa, right? Failure in my business does not mean I'm a failure as a human. And it is hard, very difficult at moments in time to create that space and that disconnection, because most of us that own these beautiful little businesses, we're very driven, we're very focused, we're extremely passionate about what we do and the clients we serve and the results that we create. And we do at moments in time start to connect our self-worth with our success in our in our business. And that is where we move from being passionate about our business into being like ridiculous about our business, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not, there is no equal sign in between my self-worth and my success and my bid. Like the two things, yeah, they don't add up. And I love that you highlighted that, because that's important. That's important. And we get caught in that trap, many of us.
Oh, without question. And I definitely have. But
Yeah, I think we all have. Like, hand up, I've done the same damn thing. I'm not successful because my business isn't going the way I want it, the way I planned it to. Okay, for real. Like, there's been a pandemic the last 2 years. Like, let it go, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's that so hard on yourselves. So it's it's been such a journey. I'm grateful for running a business, because through this process, I have learned so much about myself, and for good and for getting better at,
Yeah.
So progress over perfection, and spirit over ego. I don't know that I'm always going to do this. I'm going to be paying very close attention to what I'm drawn to rather than driven by. And when you're a really driven person, that is also challenging. That's also a big mindset shift, where you have to stop and go, okay, is it about, the ego? Is it about the win, the capture, or is it about what I feel compelled toward or drawn to energetically or spiritually? And that takes a lot more quiet to hear that. But especially, which is hard to hear when there's so much fire at play. And I am definitely fueled by fire. So.
Okay, that was really beautifully said. I'm actually going to have to go back and replay, because I was so enthralled with what you were saying. I didn't even write it down. That was beautifully said. And I think you're right. I think you have to find the space. You really do, to get quiet, to be introspective, to really listen to the inside voice that knows, that intuition we all have, so that the ego doesn't drive you in a direction that actually you're really not meant to go. And you end up burnt out, frustrated, exhausted. Yeah, maybe your business is successful and you fucking hate it. Let's just be honest. Yeah. Hand up. Yeah. Right.
Hand up.
You created something that you don't like.
No. And I've been literally hospitalized for burnout twice, in a place where it was this June, in a place where I said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I don't have a love for this anymore. I'm not prepared to let it make me sick anymore. And it was really, really unhealthy. So my dad did ask the first time I was hospitalized for burnout, Jess, where's the line? Because you were talking about that equal sign, but I always think of it too. It's just like, where's the line where we lose ourselves and our identities, because you've become so much a part of that business, and what you're willing to sacrifice, or how many loans you're willing to take out or what you're willing to invest in it, not just monetarily, but, personally and energetically.
Yeah.
And there wasn't one. And he called me out on that, and that would have been in 2018. And there is one now. There is one, because I'm not prepared to sacrifice my health.
No.
Or modern news media, nor do I need to.
No. Thank you for saying that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And can I mean, you mentioned coaching before, but a little shameless plug, and anyone who listens to this show knows not only am I a coach and do I believe passionately in what it does for people, but I work with my own coach, usually more than one at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
I practice what I preach. I put my money where my mouth is, because I believe so deeply in the practice of coaching. If you don't know where that line is, if you don't know where you end and your business begins, if you aren't able to self-identify what makes you happy versus what you do, and how you define success for yourself versus how you define success in your business, call me. I will help you figure that out and understand where that line is, what the distinction is, and how to get back to who you're supposed to be, not who you are because you run a business.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Call me. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be here, I don't think, even literally, if I hadn't been for some incredible coaching, and more than one, right? I've worked with actually 3 different individuals who specialized in different areas that I saw that I needed growth in at different times in my life. And all 3 were unique and all 3 were special. And I still have a place in my heart and a place in my life. So again, it's that help, and it's what kind of help, right? And so family and friends, especially mine, who have never run businesses, like I don't come from an entrepreneurial family. So there's a true lack of understanding, just from non-lived experience.
Right.
So yeah, it's okay to ask for help. And in fact, I think it's actually necessary, because we go back to it takes a village. We would have these people within our communities. We would have elders, we would have spiritual guides, teachers who we would go to, that were there, available to us, that weren't our family and friends, that were there to play that role within the close-knit community, or the village, if you will. So it's I think it's actually really necessary.
Oh, it is. Everybody needs help. Every single person needs help at moments in time. And I love Brené Brown, and she talks a lot about that asking for help is it's vulnerable, and being vulnerable is truly an act of courage.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask for help, you're actually being extremely courageous. And it is hard. I'm not good at it either, Jesse, just to be clear. I'm absolutely terrible at asking for help. I think if nothing else, being an entrepreneur, you learn that lesson the easy way, or generally mostly the hard way, I think, because you get beat up until you get to the place where you're like, I surrender, please help me. And then somebody's like, why didn't you ask for help 6 months ago? And you're like, because I just didn't know how. I think actually that's one of the biggest lessons we learn as entrepreneurs, right? Is how to strategically ask for help, maybe is the right way to put that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, because this is what we do on a daily basis. So we didn't talk a bit about what my company actually is, which is a video training agency. And we actually help people on a regular basis, the folks that are struggling with video, getting into video, creating video, the technology.
Where do I go with the video? Yes.
Yeah. And that's what we do every single day. Every day is we're helping people that are typically overwhelmed, just discouraged, frustrated. And so it's like, take a page from your own book.
Right? I'm a freaking coach. And it's still hard for me to ask for help.
Totally.
So you're right. We are in helping businesses, different ways that we help people. But even for us, it's easier to give the help than it is to ask for the help. And isn't that interesting?
It is. It is. The more you do it, just like anything, the better you get at it. So it's funny. The number one question that I get asked outside of kind of my personal life and speaking is, how do I get more comfortable on camera? Almost as if you know, I have a magic wand that I'm going to wave. And it's like I don't got one. Honestly, it's just doing it more and more, which is what I found with the cape. You know, you're taking off the cape and you're like reaching out. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And then you're in that place where you're like, well, why did I even think this was difficult before? Or you know, this really isn't that challenging, because you create a comfort in that. So yeah, just like anything,
I love it.
practice, right?
No, I love, but I love the metaphor of that. Like, just like you need to practice being on camera to be comfortable on camera, you need to practice asking for help so that you can do it more often and more effectively. And especially in the moments when you need it the most. I love that. I think that actually resonates a lot, because many of us, we're trying to figure out the reels. We're trying to figure out the YouTube. We're trying to figure out how, you know, what we look like doing a webinar or a workshop, right? We want to present ourselves well. So I actually think that really resonates with most of the women that listen to the show. It certainly resonates with me.
Oh, and women are the hardest in themselves. Like, I know we know that, but I get the proof in the pudding every single day. It is our female clients that have the most discomfort putting themselves in front of the camera and accepting what their voice sounds like and how beautiful they are and how they present uniquely to no other. And so, it's if we can be a part of helping folks embrace that, especially women, then that's my why for sure.
I love that, Jessie. I love it though. What a great lesson to leave everyone with, you know, from the conversation today, is like, asking for help is a learned skill. You have to practice it. You know, so start with the people that love you the most, your friends, your family, your partners. You know, start by asking them for help, and then move forward from there. And you will get better with time. So I love that. Thank you for that beautiful lesson, sort of right at the end of the show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this amazing conversation. I really love Brené Brown as well. And I feel like the more we have candid conversations about what really is going on in our lives, the more we get vulnerable, the better we all are, because we're not alone in this. We're often experiencing a lot of the same fears, a lot of the same insecurities, a lot of the same struggles. And we just need to talk about it a bit more, I think, because when we break that open, suddenly we become that community again.
It's so true. And I love that you said that. That's what the show is all about, is just really having those beautiful, honest, vulnerable conversations about what our journey is, where we screwed it up, what we've learned along the way, who we are. And I've had incredible responses from women that have said, you know, I listened to that guest and I really identified with that. That really resonated with me. And that's what this is all about, is who's behind all these beautiful businesses. Who are these amazing ladies and why are they so awesome? Right. So thank you. Thank you for being one of the awesome ladies on this show, Jessie. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for creating a platform for us to share our stories.
Oh, it is such a joy. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.